Hey, this is Megan, your host for Conversations for the Moving Self. Conversations for the Moving Self is for anyone who's passionate about movement and wants to take this for a long journey in their life. I know what it's like to be told that this isn't possible, but there is so much proof out there of all the different pathways that you can take, and one of them I'm sure aligns with you. And through these amazing practitioners and artists that I have met over the years, I'm here to share all of their knowledge and expertise of how we can work together to make this life a reality. So stay tuned, keep listening as we dive into these incredible stories of movement and well-being practitioners around the world, reminding us that this reality is possible. Welcome to Conversations for the Moving Self. Today we have Olia Poliakova here. Olia is a Ukrainian, London-based movement artist working across dance, live art installation, durational performance, and film. Olia and I met in university at London Contemporary Dance School, and we've been able to stay connected over the years. And actually today we're coming to you live from Mauritius. We've had some time together here, which has been super fun. And then also we're able to get in the studio this morning and just reconnect as dancers that way. But as we head into the episode, I'm super excited to have Olia here just to talk about all things what it is to navigate dance across different phases of a freelance career and also within different working spaces. So from more site specific to more durational work to more theater-based work, as well as creating and performing in different works. So thanks for joining today.
Thank you for having me in Mauritius.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've been able to do an episode like with the other person in the flesh. So this is super fun for me. But as we head into the episode, I'd love to just start with how you are showing up for your movement and well-being today. Granted, you're on holiday, but what today is looking like for you?
We went to yoga this morning, so I don't like yoga. So when I do it, it's like I know it's good for me.
Okay,
You know?
yeah. And I guess like in terms of, I don't know, there's something around like this space where you're in a holiday, but then equally like movement is existing.
Yeah, I was thinking about it this morning. Like, what am I doing in a studio when I can be on the beach? Why did I choose to go dancing?
Why did you choose to go dancing?
I don't know. Because maybe it doesn't feel like work. Like it is, my body and soul is still like resting. That's something I do when I just want to like relax.
Dancing or okay.
Yeah, I think when I'm like overwhelmed or stressed, I book a studio and just go dance. But without people or without tasks, without anything I need to do, just kind of just do it.
Yeah, around the intention that you enter the space within, and like it made me think around this concept when you have to make a video for an audition or something, the difference between that studio space and the studio space when it's like just for you.
Oh yeah.
And 100% like it doesn't feel like work anymore. Like I think for me as well in the space this morning, it just felt very exploratory, and like in the moments, of course there was moments as we were improvising that I was just like, I have no idea what's happening. And the mind can shift back, maybe because also we were in my workspace. My mind wanted to shift back in certain moments to be like, oh, this isn't like good, or this isn't my best. But then to be able to equally, I had another part of my soul being like, bah, who cares?
Yeah, exactly. There are no stakes, I guess. Because as a career, you're like, you need to be good. Otherwise, you can't make it. But in moments like this, it's like, if I'm horrible, it doesn't matter. I guess it feels like I don't know, taking a shower. Like it's really for yourself,
Okay. Yeah.
you know? And it's like
Ah.
you can wash your hair, you can not wash your hair, it doesn't matter.
I love this about a shower. Because yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. I think it's nice just to give like the listeners a little bit of like the entry point into your day, but then also it feels like a special episode because it's an entry point into our day,
Yeah, exactly. We've done it together.
which is cool. And I think for me in the space as well, because I guess I was the one teaching the yoga class, and then we did the improv space together, and I could sense that difference where you had taken the class and I had taught the class, and how we were in different spaces, but then very quickly kind of arrived in like, okay, we're just exploring now. This is for us. There's almost no roles. We're just
Oh yeah.
exploring. Like, and we've collaborated in that space before, but like to also just be able to arrive at where you're at for the day. And after the class, Olia was like, I could take a nap right now. Like I'm super chill. My body feels not ready to dance at all.
Yeah, but after dancing, you suddenly feel
Alive
energized.
again.
Yeah, I mean, your body might be tired, but I always feel like, whew,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Mm. Let's head in a little bit more into who you are. So I'd love to just like start a little bit where rewinding back to where dance came into your life and how you arrived here as a professional dancer.
Mm. Well, we were talking about it earlier a little bit today. Um, in Ukraine, like dance career is really non-existent. I've never known a professional dancer unless you're a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
You can teach dance because obviously as a child you take loads of classes and it's like a hobby and it's a common thing to do, but no one is performing unless you're a ballerina or a teacher. Um, so when I came to like choosing what to do, I kind of didn't have any other options. I was like, I'll do dance. um, but everybody was like, "Oh, so you're gonna open your studio? You're gonna teach?" I was like, "No." But it was quite hard to know what exactly I'm doing with it because I didn't. For me, the only path was to be in a company.
Mm.
So going to London, I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be a company dancer." Very quickly, that went away. I was like, I'm not gonna be a company dancer. But yeah, I think it's interesting that when I was choosing my career, I didn't really have an idea of what it can be, but I still chose it because there was no other choice. I was like, well, I can't imagine myself doing anything else, so I'll just do this and I'll figure it out eventually. Like there was never a question, really. Yeah.
Were you doing other like sports and movement things when you were young, or it was always kind of just dance was the main space?
I did a bit of gymnastics as a child,
Okay.
and then I did dance, and then no, actually, no sports at all. A lot of my friends play volleyball, like a lot, all the time, and I was so bad at it, so I didn't even try. No, so yeah, just dancing.
Okay.
I think so.
Cool. And I guess now in your career, what is like, can you tell us a little bit more about if you were to describe a week in your life, what that could look like? Granted, I know it's going to look different every single week.
Do you want a good week or a bad?
Maybe it's nice to hear both.
Okay. I mean, bad week. Constantly stressing out about the fact that I don't have a job, looking for jobs, applying for jobs, not getting any jobs, and working in a bar while navigating all of this. That's a bad week. That's a bad week, and that's it.
Yeah.
Good week. however, is very busy, so probably not a lot of social life, probably not a lot of rest, but very satisfying as like for me as an artist. So it probably would be like a day of extras work on set, meeting loads of new people, and then going to live modeling, and then going to studio, creating a piece with friends, and then filming a video, and then doing a photo shoot, and then I don't know, assisting a dance class, even though I don't like teaching, but assisting is fine. And then yeah, going dancing at a club, and then coming back home, and then just yeah, just like I guess a good week for me is a puzzle of things.
I was actually about to ask that of like, does the variety stress you out, or do you feel like you thrive in
Oh
that
no.
setting?
What stresses me out is no variety.
Yeah, yeah. I think I relate, but like I know that some people, well, I know I relate very much, but I know that some people that consistent change can also be a little bit jarring. And I think especially at the for me, and I imagine it's the same for you, you start to find your flow within that, and like once you know what the week kind of looks like, you can understand, okay, in this space I need this. And
Yeah, it's easier because you can kind of control it still in a way, while when you don't have any work, you're desperately trying to control your life, being like, I need to fix something now. But you can't actually do anything. If there's no work, then there's no work, like that's it. But when there is work, you're like, huh, I can manage my own schedule, and it feels actually more like it does definitely doesn't stress me out because I know exactly what I'm doing. Like I
yeah, yeah.
know here I have 2 hour break, I'll chill out, or like here I'm gonna do this. And even if last minute work comes in, it's like very easy to sort of I like this when when I'm really busy and something else comes in that I really want to do, and I go, oh, let me shuffle it up.
Let me just
Let
reshape
me just
this.
rearrange so that I can do everything. And then just even the sort of scheduling side of it and talking with people and be like, can you do an hour earlier? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do that day? I really like that.
Yeah, well, and actually, what you're talking about control, I giggled because this morning, while we were improvising, we've been talking about like different things we can do on this holiday, and I was saying the other day that I thrive much more in places where I can be a bit more grounded, and I don't love jumping out of plane. The idea,
Yeah.
I've never done it, but the idea of jumping out of a plane sounds horrendous to me. We were improvising, and I was saying, there's definitely some things that in my life scare me more than like being in an improvised space where we're taking risks, we're partnering, we're like intertwining in space. And if we were not used to that setting, well, and even if we are used to that setting, it could something could go wrong. But the in my brain I have more control over that setting, and this thing of how much the mind needs control and everybody's need for it is going to look a little different. But yeah, it starts to become like a little game of like, okay, how can I make all the things that I want to do fit in this week, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be okay. And yeah, I also loved this when you said it fulfills my like artist self a lot, and it's okay if there's a little bit less social for that week or whatever. And then
But actually, work is social.
that's what I was about to say.
Like when I have a very busy freelancing week, I meet so many new people. I talk to so many incredible beings that it doesn't feel like it's not social. Yeah, I don't see my friends, and even then I might, but it's not like I don't feel like I'm not being social. I'm being very social.
Kind of brings me into a different topic, but in your practice you work a lot with improvisation.
Hmm.
And I wonder how that looks for you at the minute. Like, what we were having a conversation earlier today around the way that improvising with someone else can look like a completely different experience, both externally and internally,
Hmm.
as when you're improvising alone. And I wonder in your creative process right now, if you have a preference of a way to work, if you what it looks like in a choreographic space, like when you're creating curating work that is going to be performed when it's still involving improvisation, how it looks for you at the minute.
My instinct was to say, oh, I don't really work with anybody at the moment, and then I remembered that I actually do. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So my own work that I create alone is usually solos at the moment, at least.
And it's on yourself typically.
It's on myself, yeah. So that's always just improv, a lot of recording, rewatching, readjusting. But I always perform improvised scores. I make a very detailed score of like, I know that I'm gonna do this after this after this after this, but like it's improv.
Yep.
Maybe because I'm lazy. Maybe because I just don't want to spend time choreographing. Because I just want to like focus on other, because yeah, actually focus on other things. That choreography doesn't feel like the only important part.
Yeah, you work in a very multidisciplinary space, and also in a lot of like gallery spaces and installation spaces, and I think in spaces that it feels very relevant and important as well to be considering.
Yeah, I spend
All
a
the
lot
other
of
elements.
energy like on set and costume and how elements are gonna work together. So sometimes it like takes away from movement, I guess. But when I work with other people, well, with one other person, I have a collaborator. We don't improvise as much, I don't think.
More set work. Interesting.
We might use improv, but it's more like, for us it's a bit more like we do something, if it looks good we keep it.
Yes, setting through improvisation, and
Yeah,
rather than like
we don't really use it to like explore anything, or we just kind of go blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that looks good, or like change this, and then that's fine.
what you were just saying around like working in solo spaces, though, that there's all these other elements to be considering. It just made me think that ultimately I wonder if you value collaboration still in that process, but it's through the different art, through the different elements, like you were speaking around the importance of set for you and the importance of costume and lighting, and feels I understand that it's still you and there's a complete different side of collaboration when it's with another human, but like what is the meeting point of the movement and the set, I feel like is potentially something that I'm interested in, and taking that lens when I'm watching your work the next time. It is like, what is the relation between these two things? Like, do you feel like you have a typical, you start from a typical, do you have a typical starting point, or do you like enter often through a question, or is it sometimes through movement, sometimes through set, sometimes through the brief of the platform you're applying to? Like, what is the way that you approach beginning a piece when it's in a solo setting?
I feel like I haven't done that many
Yeah. Okay.
to know what's my beginning.
Yeah.
But usually I'm just thinking about the three that I have done. Usually I think about it a lot in my head first. Like I really think about what it is, what's the idea that I want to explore, or maybe what are the elements that I want to try. Like usually it's something like tangible. So uh, my last one was like ropes. So I was like, yeah, I just want to do something with ropes. Or like previous one, it was clay. So something that already exists and that I know 100% that I'm gonna use, and then like an idea, and then I just think about it a lot. I go like, oh, this would look cool, or like in my head, I have like a movie. And then once I'm in the studio, or once I'm like trying to do things, it really depends. Um, I like exploring spaces, but we don't often get to create in spaces. So that only happened once, and in that case, I kind of I had my ropes. I had some ideas, but not really. And I had the space, and I came in and I was like, where can I hang my ropes? And then from there, it kind of built up. I guess it's important for me visually. Like I wanted to look like I wanted to look like cool, I guess. Um, so often I make something visually nice, and then I go, but it means this,
Mm.
kind of.
Building the meaning as you go rather than starting from, like, the meaning is alongside the aesthetic
Yeah, yeah. I think.
rather than
Oh,
out from
actually, I
feeling.
know. I know. I just had a revelation, guys. I think the all the elements like music, set design, costume, all of this is aesthetic and doesn't have the meaning at the beginning. It has the meaning later. Well, for the movement, it starts from the meaning and it creates, and then once it's like the elements are coming from the opposite sides and then they meet in the middle, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. And then obviously once the draft of the piece is done is very different work from there. But yeah, to start it, I think it's like visual set and conceptual movement. That's what it is. Wow, that's crazy. I never
The
thought of it that
revelations.
way.
The revelations. Okay. It's interesting to like hear a little bit more around your process. Now heading into what this looks like as a career and in terms of like what you were saying earlier of like there was no, it's almost no choice, but in a way of it just was always a given. Dance was the thing. There was this relationship between you and dance. I'm curious now that it's become your form of your career. What part of your practice is no longer joyful, but still relevant to your practice, and why do you keep it?
I don't think there's such thing as no longer joyful. I think showing up for class has never been joyful. As a child, I was like, oh, there's no way. I don't want to go. Like, I, I'd rather do anything else but go to that class. I never wanted to, like, it was really an effort, especially because I usually went with my best friend at the time. Whenever she went, I'm not gonna go, because she started falling out of dance and kind of just not really caring about it. She was like, I'm not gonna go. I was like, yeah, me too. But that part that it was never joyful. Once I got to class, usually it would be like, okay, fine. But the effort to go there was never, it was never easy, and it's not easy, and it has never been easy. But it's kind of this thing of, I don't really know what makes me go. It's like,
Do
I
you
don't
feel like
know.
the performing space feels different for you?
What do you mean?
Like when you say a piece that you've made is performing at a scratch night coming up. Does it feel like the same relationship for that, or it
Oh no,
feels
I
more
love
joyful?
performing.
Yeah, okay. Well, and then is it, yeah, it makes me like wonder because I think like, some people get to performing and they're like, I actually, that's, I don't like that. Other people, it's both. They love performing and like being in class training.
I wish I loved training. It would make my life so much easier. Because then I could just really train. It sounds silly, but I feel like I could really do with a lot of training. But I also feel like I can't make myself train.
Well, and then it brings up this question, I think, around like you know, in certain structures, in a company structure, for example, in a university structure, in a training program structure, once you're in, then there's an expectation of how much you're doing. Developed and asked by somebody else other than yourself. And when you're freelancing and bouncing between these projects and training becomes like coexistent to the projects, but self one-sided.
Hmm.
Something that like I know I've talked about over the years that with freelancing is like in different chapters, like, you know, training can feel more relevant and when there's training in a class setting, in a pro class setting in the mornings on weekdays or whatever, feels more relevant in certain spaces and feels easier in certain spaces, where then like when I'm working until 11 p.m. at night, getting up at the crack of dawn to get to a class at 8:30 with an hour and a half commute across London, like that, then you're sacrificing sleep in order for training.
No, but that is so much easier for me.
Then,
Yeah, yeah. In
then
uni,
what?
then
Uni class.
uni class is easier than pro class.
No, no, no. That I agree.
Ah, okay. I
Very
didn't get
much
that.
agree.
Okay, yeah, 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 yeah. But you know what I found? I have to I have to trick myself into thinking I really need it in a way, in a way, but in different ways. Like sometimes some class, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that.
Go for it.
If I'm gonna be cancelled from the industry for this.
Go for it. We see what happens.
But some class, I see who is teaching and I go, ah, I have to network with this person. Not in a way that I'm gonna be and like, yeah, hi, but in a way that I want them to see me move.
Yeah.
That's a way for me to go. Another way is if I like obsessed with the class. If I know for a fact that it feels really, really good on my body, but in that case it's not really growing. I
Yeah.
don't feel like I'm training. It's just
For
like
the soul.
going for a walk.
Yeah.
So that doesn't feel like training to me. Or alternatively, when like now, I feel like I'm really out of shape. Then I go, whoa, I have to do something about it. And then for about a month, I really I make myself like train.
Commit.
And then I'm like, okay, enough. Even though it's not, but
No, but I think I don't think you're gonna be canceled at all for that, because I think it's actually extremely, there's so many things that came up for me while you were speaking, and one of them was like ultimately once you shift out of a university structure, or if you don't go that route and go into freelancing without being in a university structure, you're ultimately, you are the one picking the class all the time.
yeah, but
And
sometimes it feels like you still have to do things you don't like.
no, 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 exactly.
But it's not true.
It's true. It's true. Yeah. And that's where I was gonna go, is like, you know, there's some classes that like instinctually I'm like, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
But then it's not that they're not relevant. I get loads out of them. But then there's the subtle difference between like, I don't want to go, but I love their work and I've never met them. And then there's this other subcategory of like, oh, you know, I had a late night, but I haven't seen that person in 6 months and I do love their class. And actually, once I'm there, it's for my soul. But them knowing, because there's this thing sometimes in London, like in this big pool of freelancers, you're going to class, you don't know the teacher, you might not know anybody in the class either.
Yeah,
and then it is like a,
that's rare though.
it's rare for sure. Well, especially once you've been doing it for a bit.
Yeah,
But at the beginning,
yeah. No, but I'm also thinking while you were speaking, yes, sometimes how you say, yeah, there is class that you're like, oh, I don't really want to take it. What happens when all the available class at the moment is something you don't want to take?
well, and then my brain goes to either going to a class that you don't like to challenge you, whether it's because it's hard or because it's like work that maybe like it's not the typical world that you're in, you know, like for me, for example, I rarely take ballet these days.
Oh god, I haven't taken ballet in 3 years.
But when I take it, like in university, it was super valuable to my practice in a different way than it was when I was in high school.
Yeah.
And I was taking ballet because I was told to do it, but in my head I was still trying to become a ballerina. And I will never be. Oh yeah. Prima. But like in my the structure shifted a lot for me. And now when I get in, like if I'm in the right headspace, if I go back to a ballet class, I notice it being like really fueling for my soul. But if I go for the wrong reasons, then I leave being like, I just feel worse than when I walked in here. And
Yeah.
yes, of course, you worked your and there's the difference as well. This is all like so nuanced because there's the difference between like walking out of a class being like, oh, I feel so bad because I need to train more versus like I feel so bad because in my head I was, analyzing, I was comparing, or I was hyperfixating and getting in my head and then overthinking things, or because actually my brain was not in the class and I wasn't picking up material and I need to arrive in the space the next time I take that. You know what I mean? Where it's like,
Yeah, but you see, my brain doesn't go there. If I see that there's nothing I'd like to take, that I genuinely don't like anything, my brain doesn't go, oh, but it's still gonna be good for me. No, I literally go, not doing it.
yeah, yeah.
That's it.
Well, and then,
No, but then it's bad because I feel like I'm not training.
but what it like self training is also
Oh
a
yeah,
thing.
no, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm inflicting all those problems on myself, but I think it is for me of what can I do that still feels like I'm engaging with the body when I don't want to do anything
That's what I was gonna follow
available.
up with because you're a big walker.
Oh yeah,
You
but when
love
am
long
I?
walks.
Not in London.
For reference, guys, Olia and I used to go to class and she'd be like, I walked here this morning.
Oh, I walk to school every day for 45 minutes.
Walked to school, walked to Chisenhale, walked to
I would
walk
walk
all
from,
over.
if you know London, I would walk from Chalk Farm / Camden to Tower Bridge.
You are a big walker, but then that's actually where my brain went, is like, obviously it's a completely different engagement with your body than in
Oh
dance.
yeah.
But ultimately, like, I think there's something there of like what does movement look like in your career, which also has a relevant impact, because it's the same thing. Like if you're training, when we were in school, for example, like there was a lot of encouragement in a very valuable way that I didn't always do as much as I probably should have. But for cross training,
Oh, I never did it.
but
But
the
I hear
impact
you,
of
yeah.
that is very relevant. And like walking, Pilates, yoga, running, whatever it is, like there's an impact for sure. And it doesn't solve everything, and being in the studio and creating, but then also consuming art, like all of this ultimately is impacting it. And so just brings up a question for me of like, or it brings up the thought that ultimately it's a question that you have to ask yourself throughout your career
Yeah.
of what do I need right now for this state of work and this period of my life.
Hmm. Yeah.
I heard a story recently of somebody talking about like, oh, I had some family things going on, so relationships went to the back burner, and we justify it in that space. But then like within a career like a dance, I think especially like within a career where the working hours are
Non-existent.
non-existent, very random, very whenever the work is when the work hours are, and that just becomes our way of constantly operating. Like it almost feels like work never stops and starts. It's just always there. And so then what does training look like there?
But you see, like when I had a 2 month contract for life modeling, and I would come home. I had loads of other things going on, but not like dance, but like other things. And I would come home and talk to my sister, saying like, "Oh, I'm really not training right now. Like I don't feel like I'm training." She's like, "Yo, you work like with your body, like not every day, but every week, and then you're doing so many things. But for me, only dancing feels like dancing.
Yes, yes.
Like nothing else is kind of in the same realm. And I do a lot of other things, but my body is still tired,
Yeah.
obviously, from everything else I do. But it doesn't have space for dancing. But my brain is like, but you need to go dance.
Yeah, it's almost like we create these unrealistic expectations that like anything else aside from dance shouldn't be tiring.
Oh yeah, that hit the nerve.
Which is like not real. But like I think about it, like I think back to like there was a phase in school where we were in training, we were in class from 9 till 6, and it was third year, And so we were like doing shows and stuff, and then I was also going to work at events and doing like 16,000 steps in a few hour shift, and I would be like, oh, but I didn't do this and that, and
Yeah.
win. Win.
Yeah.
And it's like, what does the
Yeah, I think the more I'm staying out of uni, the more I realize that there's so much more to it, and sometimes rest is what you need.
yeah,
Even
yeah.
if you were not training, rest is like ultimately, but like real rest. No, not just like I am resting on my phone in a car while I wait for something. That is not rest.
Yeah, I just was reading something about this, and I that had the same, like, that hit a nerve, because it's so easy to, for me at least, to convince myself that, like, oh, I finished work tonight at 7. Okay, so I have the night off. But then you come home, and if it's not active rest, if you're just scrolling or like
Cooking, cleaning, that's
cooking,
not
cleaning,
rest.
it's not rest. It's a different thing, and it's still important.
Mm.
But then, like, actually putting in time for the genuine rest, and like what is allowing your brain and your body to turn off. And yeah, whatever I was watching was talking about like rest that isn't sleep, like the
Mm.
importance of rest that is wakeful rest.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was saying like it was some neuroscientist or something, somebody who like looks a lot into sleep,
Somebody who has a proper job.
somebody who researches this a lot. Can't remember anything. I definitely watched it while scrolling on something though. But it interrupted me because he said this thing, and whoever he was speaking with was like, "Oh, so what do you do?" And he said, "Oh, I make a coffee." And he said, "Is that really rest then?" And he was like, "No, because I am a coffee princess."
Uh-huh.
Like, I am going to my coffee machine, I'm taking out the coffee beans, I
Mm.
am grinding that. It's a 15-minute process, and then I sit there and I drink it without doing anything else. And I was like, like, even the process there of
Yeah.
like, what is something like small that you can do that's intentionally shifting the energy, but it doesn't need to be like sitting and staring at the sky for
No,
15
no,
minutes
no.
if
That's
that doesn't work
yeah.
for you.
That's true. Like rest is not necessarily not doing anything. For each rest is their own. For me, going on a hike is rest. Like,
There's a mental disconnect for sure, and like just a doing that's happening.
mm,
Even at, like, it makes me think of like knitting or puzzles or like these things where you're thinking but you're not
yeah,
overthinking,
yeah, 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 yeah,
problem solving.
for sure.
Well, and then this brings me into the question around, you started to speak a little bit around life modeling, and life modeling is, I would say, a pretty consistent part of your life now. I'm
Yeah,
sure it
no,
goes
no,
up and
no.
down.
It is as consistent as I want to make it.
Okay. It's nice.
That sounds pretty bougie, but it's not. But it is true. There is loads of ways to make it happen.
Okay.
There are so many places around London. If you contact each one of them saying, "Hey, I want a model," you'll get loads of work.
Well, and I'm curious around like what for you the relationship between life modeling and dance is.
Ah,
We started to touch on this a
yeah.
little bit as you were talking around like training and the way that life modeling is still going to be tiring for your body, but I wonder, artistically, emotionally, whatever, like what does that relationship look like for you?
Hmm. The dancing helps with life modeling, but life modeling does not help with dancing. That's why whenever I do life modeling, it doesn't feel like I'm progressing towards my career. It also feels like because life modeling is not super easy, but fairly easy to get, and I can do it quite a lot, but I don't want to do it. It's still one of those jobs like as hospitality, that's something I do because I
As a
need
top
money.
up. Yeah.
It is much better, don't get me wrong. I still really very much enjoy it, but whenever it takes up too much time or um I do too much, it feels like it's taking away from my actual career. Like it doesn't feel like my career. it feels like a side gig, a hustling, a side job. That's why, like, it also depends what kind of life modeling. When I was working at ICA, that felt like a part of my career because I had creative freedom in it. It was more like an installation, it was more interesting. When it's an actual live drawing class, it just feels like work. So on a good day, I still feel artistically satisfied because I whip up a really cool pose and I'm like, oh, wow. But most of the times it's just like 2 hours, I do them, I get paid, I go home.
Brings up a question for me around like what does side jobs look like for you? Not for you, but like for the person. And I
What?
remember, like, for the individual, I remember as I was, when we were graduating, a girl a couple years above us said to me one day, like, very, saw me in the building and was like, oh, how are things going? Like, good luck. But then was like, can I give you a tip? And I was like, yes, please. Send it my way. And they were like, you need to find what works for you. For me, sitting is the worst type of job. For friends of mine, a standing bar job is the worst type of job. And then they were telling me that they were working for a company as a runner. So they were like still in a dance space, which I think also can potentially play a huge role. But it, as you were speaking around like what ICA offers you versus ICA, what ICA offers you versus like a just a life drawing class, and how they play different roles, and maybe it's about the people you're at, maybe it's around the setting that you're in, like what then what then allows you to feel fulfilled is interesting.
Yeah, I guess like because ICA is a big institution, it's very cool. So I was like, wow.
Yeah.
I mean, same as Royal Academy and Marina Abramovic exhibition. It just felt, it wasn't really relevant to my dance practice, but it just felt really cool. And also the people that you meet along the way, they can be useful, I guess.
Yeah.
While at drawing classes, yeah, they're all very nice and I still chat to them, but I wouldn't remember them the next day, you know what I mean? It's just,
It's also interesting to me that you not, I'm sure there are parts that you perceive relevant, but like to me the Marina Abramovic job was very relevant.
Relevant how? I just spent 3 years of my life doing very intense dancing, 9 to 6, and then I went off and did a job where I just stand.
But we spent so long also trying to figure this out. How do you stand? How do you move still? How do you move still? How do you move slow? How do you find stillness? Like, and it's something that, I think it's easy to then like discredit, make the job smaller than
Oh
feels,
no, the
because
job
it's
is
not
not
like
smaller though. It's really challenging
no.
for sure.
Yeah.
But it's the fact that it's challenging doesn't make it relevant.
Yeah. Okay. Of course. But I think what that, like, sure, from the outside, surely it informed you artistically. And like, I guess also it brings up, it's the same thing of, it brings up who you're around. You're in conversations with people that, I mean, from knowing a handful of you all, like the environment maybe in my brain is fulfilling.
I think like, yeah, that's true. That's definitely, it changed me and like informed me as a person, and maybe some approaches, but I think it was a very, like, in the moment it felt like a big, like, wow, I'm a new person now, this is crazy. But once I started to go back to actual dancing, I was like, I mean, yes, one thing that really changed is in my brain. Now I know that my body and my brain is capable of so much more than I thought it is, because standing still for so long, it's not only physically hard, it's hard mentally. Like, your brain goes wild places. So now whenever it's really hard in life, I just go, nah, if I did that, I can do anything else. Yeah. So in that way, stamina, yes, definitely, but it didn't feel like artistically, yeah, personally it was important. Artistically, spiritually it was important, personally it was important, artistically.
Well, and then actually what came up for me as you were speaking just then is like when something feels relevant as it's happening or irrelevant as it's happening, and then later with time you're like, ah, it's actually the opposite. Like not opposite, but like because I was so close to a different perspective on it, and now that there's time and space, and within like a career, like it's very cliche, but like the more you do, the more you know. But like I think also potentially, I wonder if it also just informs. It just gives you more information on what works you're interested in, what type of movement makes you the most excited, what working environments feel the most interesting, and so like it's informing your artistic space, but not in necessarily in a way it's not informing your movement.
I think it informed my artistic self in a wrong way. Let me explain. Because I thought while doing it and a few years after doing it, I thought, I'm so interested in durational work. But I'm not. Not in a way that I thought I was. I thought I was interested in endurance, durational work, because I was so like, wow, this is so cool and I can do this, and wow, like it just opened up a whole new thing for me. But now I realize that it's not the duration of the work that I'm attracted to, because I saw while doing Marina Abramovic exhibition, I also went to see something at South Bank when it was loads of durational performances, and I was like, wow, this is so cool. But now I realize that it's not the durational aspect of the work that I'm attracted to, it's the live art part of the work, is the installation, is the visual, like coming into a gallery and seeing two naked people stand there, stunning. How long, don't care. And the same with South Bank. Like I saw people doing performance that wasn't dance, and that's what I was really attracted to. But I thought, I'm a durational artist now. No, I'm not. I can do it for a long time, and I think it would be cool. Like I'm interested to create like a 2-3 hour piece, but durational work, I think it's a lot about mental things. I don't necessarily want to suffer.
Yeah.
I just, yeah, like I don't mind doing it for a long time, but durational work for Marina, for people who I've met who do it, it's a lot about repetition, and just you get into a different state of mind. And I thought I was interested in that, but I don't think I am.
Interesting.
So it did impact me, but it kind of led me in the wrong direction a little bit.
Wrong direction. A tangent.
Yeah, it wasn't wrong.
Because I wouldn't even say, yeah, like it just makes me think that it allowed you to find that out.
Yeah, no, for
at
sure.
the end of the day.
Like I would hands down do it again anytime.
Yeah.
Not anytime. Wrong. But back then, like I would do it again, and it's great. It's definitely been important in my life. But yeah, it's not, because I guess when I talk about it, people are like, wow, like it's for them it's a very different thing.
I also think like I don't know, from witnessing you as a friend during that process, and then also like witnessing the project from the outside, like there's something like my parents were seeing stuff about it in the US. And I remember being like, them as non-dancers, to see them also, we talk about what durational work is as an artist, as a dancer, we talk about that concept, and for them like just to even, I think it took them a while to, they didn't go to see it because they were in a different country, but like I had talked to them about going to see the exhibition and all this stuff, and like it took them a while, I think, to comprehend that you genuinely were there for a long time. Like it wasn't like it, but like then that was extremely just, I think it's fascinating for people to understand.
Oh, it's fascinating.
It's like Night at the Museum in real life.
No, but even then, like when you say, I was still for 2 hours, it's hard to understand how long is 2 hours
until you're doing it.
Until you're doing it, because you're like, 2 hours, like yeah, it sounds long, but 2 hours, fine. But when you realize that you would never watch a 2 hour movie,
Yeah.
Because 2 hours is too long. You can't sit still for 2 hours even to watch a movie.
Yeah.
That is kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah,
That
no,
is kinda
it's a
crazy.
bit bonkers.
And then
It's a bit
people,
wild.
when I tell people, oh yeah, I was there for 2 hours, they're like, was breaks, right?
This is, I think, yeah, like the general
No.
mind goes to, okay, that's fine. 2 hours is easy.
No breaks, no breaks, guys, just there.
No. Yeah, wild. But it's, I think it's super interesting to then also hear like the way that it, I guess you get used to that structure, and so then maybe like
No.
no, I'm not saying used to it in that way, but like then when you're witnessing durational work around at the same time that you're doing durational work, you have a different lens on it. So it almost doesn't surprise me that you're like, yeah, I like this, and then you're like, okay, like yeah, like I like it, I don't like all of it, or like your lens shifts with more time and space, and it's just interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I'd like to head into our closing question, actually.
Okay.
And for our closing question today, it's a random one.
Okay.
After being in Mauritius, having a little holiday from London, what's like the first thing you feel like, not to-do list that you need to do, but like for you as a mover in your career, but for yourself that you think is relevant when you get back to London?
Oh, I'm gonna go to classes. But that's also, I've been trying to go to classes before Mauritius, so I don't think it's exactly
That's
this.
yeah.
That's different.
Yeah.
More,
I'm not even talking about like Mauritius as a magical place. Mauritius is a magical place, but so is London. Like they're both magical for different reasons, and that's a different conversation around like what a location offers you, but more in the sense of having a pause from your life, despite the fact that really life as a freelancer never pauses. Has there been anything that's come up that as you head back, you're like, this is something I'd like to take into my next days?
you know, I thought it would, because last two holidays last year, big holidays that I had, like one was 2.5 weeks, one was 1.5 weeks, like long. After them, I came back being like having a revelation, like being like, wow, this would have never thought. This time, I was coming being like, I'm ready.
Give me a revelation.
Give me my revelation. And it's been a week. The revelation hasn't come. but the revelation then came from something else. Because I think last year, going to both of those holidays, I was either exhausted physically or mentally, or something was going on in my life that was like difficult or a lot. And then, of course, once I took a pause and my brain went, let me figure this out. This time coming here, yes, I worked pretty hard before, like I had a busy period, but I was genuinely very happy. Nothing was wrong. Like everything was great. Yeah, like there are, of course, some things, but I wasn't exhausted neither physically nor mentally. I was quite like, life's great. So I think that's why there is no big revelation, because life was great, life is even better. And while being here, I had so many rejections. But because I'm here, it just feels like I'll just keep, like, get back and keep going. There's no other way. Like, I'll just keep going.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, like 10 people told me no. But what can I do? Apart from keep going. I'm not gonna, yeah.
It brings up something that I think is super, super, super important, that like I think a lot of times it's not talked about in a casual way. It's either talked about like, oh my god, I got rejected, or it's talked about like, oh my god, I got the job. But the reality is the only way to get the job is to keep going.
Yeah.
And the rejections are all the time happening. I think no matter who you are.
When it's like 10 in a row, it's a bit
well, that's what I was gonna say. And then
much.
it's like this reminder of being like, hang on, I have to. The only way is to keep going, because I can't let the 10th one be the one that knocks me off just because it's the 10th one. I've made it through 9. I might as well make it through 10 and keep going.
Yeah, I think that's like
stamina.
one of the things that you just, because I would like to come on holiday again.
Yeah.
And to come on holiday, I need to find jobs. So so that's, yeah, just like kind of keep going. I think even if I did have something that happened while I was on the break, it was more personal rather than career related.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for joining. It's been so fun and so fun to have you like in the flesh. Thanks so much, listeners, for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode of Conversations for the Moving Self. Bye. We at Conversations for the Moving Self want to say one final big thank you. We know what it's like out there to try and pursue this movement career in a long term, sustainable way. When it gets hard, you know where we are. Stay tuned. Next Saturday, we have another amazing episode coming out with a new guest to share their experience of navigating this career firsthand. So, big thank you again, and see you next time on Conversations for the Moving Self.